Across Central Oregon on this Thursday, we started 2026 chilly and wet, and for some parts of Central Oregon, we did not even get above freezing, which left slick conditions across parts of Jefferson County and even getting into Deschutes and Crook County. Now, it wasn't for everybody. Nevertheless, it's still wet. It's still chilly. Winds have been at a light breeze, and several more changes to our weather pattern are on the way. Hey, everyone. I'm Darrell Winninger, Chief Meteorologist at Central Oregon Daily News, and we're about to do a deep dive into your most reliable forecast. We're going to talk about what's been happening today, why the huge shift in the weather pattern to start 2026, and what comes next, when our next chance for some snow showers will be, and when we actually have the potential of some snow accumulating at the surface and across Central Oregon. So let's go ahead and get going with what we have right here and right now. Across Central Oregon, we have a whole lot of cloud cover. Showers continue to fall, and most of it has just been rain. We're going to look at some satellite and radar in just a little bit, but let's keep the focus on some of these cameras. When we look at other cameras throughout Central Oregon, these ones are all courtesy of the Oregon Hazards Lab. Each one shows that we are looking at reduced visibility, a whole lot of cloud cover, and as the sun is setting, still wet conditions. Meanwhile, our air quality is ranging between good and moderate for most of Central Oregon, except for one spot, Madras. That sensor is unhealthy for sensitive groups. That's a real-time sensor. The actual hourly average still showing good to moderate in that area. Looking at a few more cameras closer to the surface at the road level, all the roads are wet, and that's because we've had this persistent light shower activity that's been impacting us across the high desert through the day today, and it started late last night, just before we began to ring in the new year. Now, some of the folks that I spoke with via social media in Madras said that's where we've had very slick conditions. Now, it hasn't been through the main arteries as much as some of the side roads, but with temperatures that barely topped out at freezing, it doesn't surprise me. Meanwhile, when we look at higher elevations through the passes, we have wet roads at each one of these locations, and this is because really the snow level is just too high. In fact, the snow level doesn't come down into our lower elevations until late this weekend going into next week. But by Saturday and Sunday, some snow at pass level is going to be possible, and that's because of our next active weather pattern. These back-to-back systems will resume this weekend and continue to go into early next week. But look at this. Today, across the high desert, we have just been wet. Now, also keep in mind, we are in a radar desert, and that means that there's a radar in Portland, there's one near Medford, and there's one near Pendleton, and we're right at the cross section of where these radars furthest reaches, so we're not seeing the complete coverage, but we are seeing a whole lot of precipitation. Now, everything that you see that's green is rain. Where you see the blips of white show up, that's snow, and where you see the pink, that is the potential for a wintry mix, and that also includes some freezing rain. So we have been tracking that pretty closely starting late last night, going through the day today, and when we look at the bigger picture, we just have wet conditions across most of the state. In fact, most of the Pacific Northwest has been getting the shower activity from this system that pushed in late last night. Now, up towards Spokane, they've been getting some steady snow today, as well as the Cascades of Washington, but throughout Oregon and Central Oregon, we haven't been seeing just that. We've been getting some ice, some freezing rain, but that's been where temperatures have been so cold through the day today. Otherwise, it's mostly just been shower activity. Now, when it comes to the satellite and radar, we were just showing radar, which is where the precipitation is, and that satellite was a blend of infrared and visible. Right now, we're just looking at infrared satellite imagery, and there's an enhancement on there, the same one that I typically use for these deep dives into your most reliable forecasts. But what this enhancement does is it really pulls out the very high cloud cover. We have to actually back up and or zoom out quite a bit to actually see some of the reds near Denver or in the Arklatex area. But here for Central Oregon, we've been mostly getting mid-level cloud cover. Now that's important because there's no vertical development with any of these clouds. And so the light persistent precipitation is just going to continue here through the next several hours. Later tonight, that's when we really start to see it fizzle out. Now, when we look at the bigger picture, the low pressure that's driving all this precipitation is still well out over the Pacific Ocean, well to our west, pulling in some of that moisture, that subtropical moisture. And the difference is when you hear someone say tropical moisture, it's closer to the equator is where the base of that is coming from, where the majority of the moisture is coming from. But right now, the system that is moving through central Oregon and really the west coast is pulling in moisture from not quite the mid latitudes, but not quite the tropics. So that's why we call it subtropical moisture. And actually, this next graphic is going to help out with that quite a bit more. Now, around our low pressure, there's some dry air getting wrapped up into it, which is typically indicative of a system starting to wrap up. But this one's going to recycle. It's going to regenerate over the Pacific Ocean. And we do have some convection offshore, but over the Pacific Northwest, over the west coast, it's mostly that low-level cloud cover. It does look like a little bit of convection in southern Oregon, but I don't even think we've had any lightning strikes or anything like that. Meanwhile, that moisture that's being pulled up into this system is coming from the subtropical region, and that's why the snow levels are too high. That's the reason that I've been hammering on that here lately through the last couple of minutes. The subtropical versus tropical or mid-latitude is because with subtropical moisture, we don't ever get the snowflake actually forming in the cloud cover. And that's because the snow levels are just too high. Now, sometimes with freezing rain, the snowflake starts to fall and it melts completely, goes into a sub-freezing layer, and then refreezes as soon as it hits the surface. And that's almost what we're seeing right now, except for some of the precipitation, the snowflake isn't even forming. We're just getting rain falling into that below freezing layer, and that's right over the surface. That's where we're starting to see some of that freezing rain, or where we have been seeing it through the day today. But we are nowhere near done with this system. It continues through the rest of this evening and tonight. So let's go ahead and look at a high resolution forecast model, starting the clock at 7. Now, through the rest of this evening and overnight, some precipitation stays with us, but notice still all green until you get to the highest elevations of the Cascades. That's where we start to get a little bit of white. And then through early Friday morning, some showers are expected, but watch what happens after sunrise. We start to see in and out clouds. Friday is going to be our break between systems. One little change up is going to be during the early afternoon hours. A few sprinkles are going to be possible. And then by Friday night, our next system rolls into the region, which means more precipitation. This is mostly going to be Friday night going into Saturday. It's mostly going to be rain with snow in the Cascades and some snow showers in our lower elevations. Then by Sunday, we get Saturday night going into Sunday, another system rolls in. Each one brings another dip in our snow levels and cooler air mass coming over the Pacific Northwest. And so what this means is by this weekend, not only is it going to be gusty, but more precipitation is expected. Mountain snow is in the forecast, and some snow showers in our lower elevations will be possible. But let's look at this in a different way. Let's just look at future road conditions. Through the passes, most of it is rain. Some of that is going to be freezing rain. Keep that in mind. Now, as we go forward through the rest of this evening, getting into tonight, let me start that one over. That one started off kind of wonky. So starting off at 7 p.m., where we're seeing the pink, that's where we have the potential for some patchy ice. And it has been throughout Jefferson County today. I would not be surprised if it was like that later on this evening as well. So it does look like this specific forecast model, though it's high resolution, is starting off a little bit different. It's starting off with that potential for freezing rain a little bit further to the north. So just drag that line further south. I just wanted to show you that we are looking at some precipitation continuing all the way through the overnight hours. So some pockets of freezing rain are still expected. But then by Friday morning, we're looking at a transition to snow in the Cascades before a lot of this fizzles out. Now, let's go ahead and look at some other parts of the forecast. Getting to current conditions, what we're seeing is when it comes to relative humidity, we already have some locations that are between 95 and 100%. Two things are happening. Three things are going to be happening. One of three things, I should say. It's either raining or we have clouds that are dipping down and bringing us some lower visibility, some fog, or both. And what we're expecting here through tonight is some areas of fog are going to be expected. Outside of that, still looking at freezing rain, freezing drizzle possible. Once temperatures start to rebound, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a couple of minutes. Once temperatures start to rebound, that chance for freezing rain goes away, but we still have a potential for some reduced visibility and those wet roads. Now, in the last 24 hours, temperatures topped out in the 30s and low to mid 40s. The forecast high for today was in the mid 40s, and we did not get that warm. Currently, we're sitting near and above freezing for many of us, but just not quite everybody. It's at freezing in Madras, 29 in Sisters, 33 in Redmond, and you can see where we have those other 30s and 40s across other parts of the high desert. So right now, temperatures are running between 4 degrees cooler and 7 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. Now let's talk about the temperature trend because it's already cold. Tonight, as a warm front starts to work its way through the high desert, temperatures begin to tick up, and really you're going to see some ups and downs in temperatures staying in the lower 40s and upper 30s for several hours. It's going to be pretty chilly, but this is actually a warmer slot of air working its way over the high desert. And then by tomorrow, we keep with that gradual warming trend, bringing our temperatures through the 40s, reaching into the 50s for some, just not everybody. Here's what's happening. We're actually falling into the warm sector of this next system. Highs in the 40s, some 50s possible, early showers, then in and out clouds. So we get this a little bit of a warm up. By Saturday, the first cold front fizzles out as it starts to push through the high desert. Colder air mass starts to work its way into central Oregon, and then another system takes shape. So by Saturday, we're looking at highs in the 40s with a few 50s and 30s possible. By Sunday, 40s and some 30s, a wintry mix is in the planner. So through this weekend, we're looking at gusty winds, rain, and snow showers across central Oregon. Now, between now and Sunday at 11 p.m., we are looking at rain. Another cold front bearing down on the high desert, and if you look closely at central Oregon, we're actually seeing that we did get a whole lot of rain, but also some snow is going to be possible in the Cascades in our higher elevations. Looks like we could actually be looking at a foot plus the snow that we need. Now, when it comes to the temperature trend, we're expecting a little bit of a warm up through Friday and Saturday, but we're back to precipitation by Saturday and Sunday, a wintry mix becoming snow showers. Yes, snow showers. Yes, snow showers in our lower elevation. So let's time that out. There's our next system just offshore. We're still under the influence of the remnants of this low pressure that pushed in last night, and that lasts all the way through this evening and into tonight. Then that all transitions into a warm front. Once this warm front pushes through, we're in the warm sector of our next system. Friday, in and out clouds. Now we start to see the changes. By Saturday, early morning hours, that next cold front starts to roll through. Saturday is going to be chilly, periods of clearing, gusty winds, and rain and snow showers. By Sunday, we're matching that, except it's going to be a little bit colder. By Sunday night going into Monday, snow levels fall enough for snow, even in our lower elevations, with some light totals, but we're not done there just yet. So let's look at it from a different vantage point. This is the GFS, a different forecast model. It uses different model physics, and it's a long-range forecast model. This one actually shows that through Friday, we actually get some in and out clouds. By Saturday, PM rain and snow showers. Sunday, PM rain and snow showers, also overnight, both nights. And then Monday, some early flurries fizzle out. It also shows that by Tuesday night, another system rolls in, continuing to impact us through Wednesday. And by Thursday, we have one more wave of moisture before we're back to more sunshine than clouds. So, looking at all that, taking it all into focus, between now and noon on Monday, we're looking at some heavy mountain snow with a few light totals in our lower elevations. Fast forward, looking at a different forecast model. This one is not the high resolution one, it's the medium resolution one, and it goes through most of the 7-day planner. But by next Wednesday at 5 p.m., heavy mountain snow and some moderate totals in a few of our lower elevations. When it comes to winds, looking at a light breeze, it's breezy at times right now, and here through the overnight hours, we come back down to a gentle breeze. It is going to be breezy for many of us tomorrow. And then by Saturday and Sunday, we're talking gusty winds across central Oregon. So for tonight, 30s with a few 40s and 20s possible. By Friday, and some of those 20s that are possible happen early in the night. By Friday, we're looking at 40s with some 50s possible. And then we stay into the 40s and 50s. By Saturday, that next system rolls in. We get back into an active weather pattern with rain and snow showers through this weekend. By Sunday night and Monday, some snow showers, some light totals, but look at what happens later in the 7-day planner. By Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday, that could be our first real snow of the season. But altogether, that's still pretty far out, and we're not putting any numbers on that. Now, a quick look at your weather headlines for this Thursday, January the 1st. As we start 2026, it's chilly, it's wet, we've had some slick roads, but a break between systems is expected Friday with some warming and stronger winds, especially as we go through this weekend. An active setup is expected this weekend and early next week, and as of right now, there are still some showers across parts of central Oregon, not just shower activity, but some of that is freezing rain. I'm going to leave you with this view of satellite and radar. That's the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. It's at 5 and 11 on ABC, so starting in just a couple of minutes, and at 6, 7, and 11 on CBS. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecast. We'll see you then.